Good afternoon and greetings from your NYC crew. This presentation is going to be given by Michael Cunningham, myself, Michaela Medved, and Maureen Webb. So today we're going to discuss 5 leadership theories: emotional intelligence, leader-member exchange, servant, situational, and path goal. We are then going to present some characteristics of a leader and those of a follower, how to transition from being a follower to a leader, and then present one successful example and one unsuccessful example of how leadership affected our workplace environment. So what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence follows an organic evolutionary model, and it requires the awareness of oneself and others in order to handle emotions and relationships. Leaders who are known to be to have high emotional intelligence are known to be self-aware, self-managers, they are socially aware, and they are socially skilled. In order to practice emotional intelligence, there are 4 critical skills that are necessary. The first one being able to recognize and perceive the emotions of others, to then be able to use those emotions to assist rather than to hinder thoughts and thinking, the ability to analyze and understand the emotions of others, and to manage individual emotions based on personal goals, self-knowledge, and social awareness.
The next theory we'll discuss is that of the leader-member exchange. The leader-member exchange theory was first presented by G.B. Graun in 1976. It's based upon the Vroom-Yetton theory. It's also known as the virtual dyad linkage theory. This theory is based upon the development of relationships between the leader and all of her or his subordinates. The leader-member exchange theory was developed to foster more mature leadership relationships within teams. It's based upon the leader developing relationships with each subordinate. This theory is considered to be both transactional and visionary. It's transactional in that team members exchange productivity for access to the leader, and it's visionary in that the leader must have a focus for the current and future state of the organization. Members fall within 2 groups, the in-group and the out-group. Members of the in-group have more negotiable roles. They achieve more and have greater access to the leader. They also have more time spent with the leader. Members of the out-group have more rigid roles. They do as they're told and they follow formal procedures. However, within the leader-member exchange theory, the leader should make each member feel as though they're part of the in-group, regardless of the group into which the member actually belongs. The leadership process is directly impacted by the relationship of the leader with each follower. As per Horner 1997, research has generally supported the leader-member exchange theory. This theory has evolved over time. Initially, in stage 1, the vertical dyad linkage indicated that relationships are developed at the dyadic level between 2 people. Various members may report highly different descriptions of their leader or manager. This developed the concept of in-groups and out-groups. Stage 2, the leader-member exchange investigated the characteristics of the various dyadic relationships. This included mutual respect, trust, and a shared commitment by the leader and members of the in-group. Research conducted at this time indicated that higher quality leader-member exchange relationships were beneficial for the leader, follower, and organization. In stage 3, dyadic partnership building, the focus moved from in-group and out-group relationships to the development of meaningful quality relationships with all members of the team and the leader. In stage 4, the relationship has moved beyond the dyad to the group or network. The terms interdependent dyadic relationships and network assemblies were used to describe the collective nature of this perspective. Servant leadership was initially described by Robert Greenleaf in 1970. It's been compared and contrasted with transformational leadership frequently. Within servant leadership, The relationship between the leader and follower is the primary focus. The organization and its needs are secondary. Servant leadership is comprised of 10 major attributes. These include listening, empathy, healing, awareness, persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, a commitment to the growth of people, and community building. The servant leadership theory is considered to be visionary. The primary focus is tending to the needs of the followers. The leader is self-sacrificing and will take on risks. The primary characteristics of the servant leader are empathy and optimism. There's a belief that the creativity of the leader fosters creativity within the group members, which benefit the organization. The support provided by the leader allows the group members to look beyond their own self-interest. The servant leader helps his or her subordinates understand the need for and benefits of change.
Now we are going to speak about situational leadership. This leadership style refers to adjusting the needs of the workers at any given time. We're also going to talk about 4 approaches that are defined in the literature, being telling, participating, delegating, and selling. The situational leadership theory is based on the fact that the leader is engaged to change what is happening. There are 2 characteristics that are important for the situational leader, and those are flexibility and mobility. The leader needs to be flexible to adapt to change, and then also be willing to be more mobile to move with the change or situation that occurred. So the first characteristic is telling. So telling is related to this directive behavior that the leader is letting the workers or the followers know what is required of them in order to complete the task, resulting in the leader giving specific tasks and then having limited interaction with the workers or the followers, who then have to complete the task with limited interaction with the leader. The second approach is selling. So both parties are trying to encourage the other to see their side, and therefore they are both pushing a product where the leader is encouraging the worker to be productive, and the worker is in turn encouraging the leader to improve the working conditions based on their performance. The third characteristic is participation. So here both the leader and the workers perform their duties in a cooperative manner, maximizing productivity and therefore creating a more amicable workplace. The leader is the center of the operations, with the workers forming a circle in order to complete the tasks and chains of activities and of participation. The last characteristic is delegation. So no one person can effectively complete all tasks. Therefore, there needs to be some form of mutual sharing in order to accomplish any given goal. And this is done via delegation. The picture here depicts the passing of a baton, which is what occurs when delegation is instilled. So these 4 approaches are not independent of each other, and they can actually run concurrently with each other. The key is for the leader to be able to adjust. So whether the leader is using this theory, there should be task-oriented or relationship-oriented actions. And that is our situational leadership.
The next theory is that of the path goal theory, which focuses on the use of a reward system to accomplish goals and provide incentives to increase interest. There are 4 leadership behaviors which are identified. Those include supportive, participative, directive, and achievement-oriented. Horner, 1997, stated that it was the leader's responsibility to assist the worker to engage in actions that would result in the achievement of the goals set. Supportive and directive behaviors are usually related to the new workers in an organization because they relate to the orientation of the organization and the specific tasks of that company. The participative behaviors encourage the worker to be active in the decision-making process and particularly those that are related to the worker's areas of expertise. The achievement-oriented behavior results in the worker becoming responsible for growth and the completion of tasks. The worker demonstrates initiative in completing tasks and beginning new tasks.
Now we're going to discuss several characteristics that are necessary for a leader to be successful. So a leader must be a visionary and have the ability to create an image of what the future should look like. This is an imperative characteristic, as no organization or business can move forward without having a leader who is thinking one step ahead. Businesses lacking such leaderships grow stagnant, as a lack of forward movement may manifest in a lack of motivation for employees. A leader must also have good communication skills. They need to be able to effectively transmit their message to improve the organization and create a cohesive team. Lastly, there needs to be trust and respect. Without those two characteristics, a strong relationship with employees cannot be had. Next, we're going to be talking about key characteristics of a follower. So an effective follower is one who is committed to their work, the organization, and their leader. It is necessary for followers to be committed, as businesses can only succeed when their employees are diligent workers. A follower also has to have a compatible cognitive process in order to complete their assigned tasks and scaffold according to what the leader has communicated. Lastly, a follower has to have acceptance. A follower accepts and assists in accomplishing the leader's vision. Now we're going to talk about one of the ways of how to transition from a follower to a leader. So in order to be an ideal follower, one must have strong social skills. Social skills allow a worker to interact successfully with their team members and communicate with their employees and leaders. Heifetz and Laurie in 2001 state that one of the responsibilities of a leader is to manage conflict and therefore restore order. Two of the prerequisites of managing conflict are to be able to communicate effectively with others and to see all the possible sides of conflict. In order to attain both of these goals, an individual must have strong social skills to ensure that fellow workers will entrust them with their thoughts and opinions. The transition from follower to leader is not one which happens overnight, but rather an ongoing metamorphosis requiring the follower to establish trust with his or her team, utilizing their social skills, and then using that obtained confidence to allow coworkers to entrust them with their struggles.
Two additional attributes that are necessary to transition from a follower to leader include the ability to collaborate and having effective critical thinking skills. A strong follower has the ability to follow direction, share vision, and work with the leader as well as colleagues within the team. Critical thinking skills throughout the collaboration process makes the follower a valuable asset to every team. And the ability to collaborate with colleagues as well as the leader develops behavioral traits that can allow the follower to transition to a leader.
We're going to give two examples, again, of how leadership affected our working environment. The first is going to be an unsuccessful example told by myself, and then a successful example given by Michael. So, according again to Heifetz and Laurie in 2001, a leader needs to be able to maintain a productive level of tension. Too much tension causes discomfort amongst employees or followers, and a lack of any type of tension creates a lax working environment. So in January of 2017, the practice where I work needed to close one of its locations due to overwhelming rent for office space in Midtown Manhattan. So in order to accommodate for the patients who were seen at that practice, additional office space was rented on the Upper West Side, where there was already a pre-existing site of the practice, which was being run by myself with the support of my clinical fellow. Now, rather than having 3 therapy rooms as well as our shared office, be utilized by the two of us. We were given 1 week's notice that it was now the same space was to be utilized by ourselves, as well as an additional 2 full-time therapists and a 3rd part-time therapist. So obviously this caused a lot of emotions, including tension, fear, worrying, frustration. So though myself and my clinical fellow knew that we had to devise some type of system because we had to make this work, it was incredibly disheartening when we were constantly reminded by the owner of the company that though it was our workspace, we were to remember that it was in fact her office and her business, and we had to figure it out. So this, rather than decreasing our attention, really increased it, making it extremely overwhelming for now the 4 of us to work together.
In researching the leader-member exchange theory and the servant theory, I reflected upon a situation in which I was brought in as a consultant for a student who was demonstrating significant interfering behaviors. The team was comprised of a behaviorist, speech-language pathologist, an occupational therapist, a special education teacher, and a teaching assistant. And there was not effective teamwork occurring. So each professional was looking at the student from their own perspective. What's the function of the interfering behavior? What's the communicative function of the behavior? What is the sensory overload that's causing this response in the behavior? But they weren't communicating with each other. So I developed interdependent dyadic relationships with each member of the team. So individually I met with each member, heard their perspective, made sure that they knew that their perspective was a priority and would be included, and then I developed relationships between the team members so that we could see each component, the behavior, the communication, and the sensory needs of the student were all being reflected in this interfering behavior that was the result. By establishing network assembly between all of the members of the team, we were able to develop an effective intervention plan that included the special education teacher and the teaching assistant, who previously did not know how to respond to the behavior because they were giving 3 separate directives from the related service providers. Therefore, the intervention wasn't successful because there were 3 different responses to the behavior. So this just reminded me of the importance of making each member feel as though they're part of the in-group, that their perspective is important, and also to take the perspective of servant leadership. Although the ultimate priority was in the success of the student, it was very important to make each team member know that they too were a priority and their perspective was being taken into consideration. The following 3 slides are the references used for this presentation.